Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I'm here in London. I had a chance to meet some of my Black Wealth boot camp students here in London, and I was really fascinated with the fact that so much of the racism, so many of the challenges that we experience in the United States is replicated here in London. I got a chance to be educated on some of the day-to-day experiences of black people in the workplace, and if all around the world, there are lots of black people who feel that what they're going through is virtually intolerable, unfair, and unacceptable. I just wanted to share that with you. And I think for all of us as people of color, we want to learn and grow and think outside of just what's going on in our country and realize that we're part of a broader diaspora. We're part of the entire globe and not just the United States. But speaking of the United States, somebody brought something to my attention today, and I wanted to hit on this with you. And I hope that you'll really listen to me carefully. If you've never listened to me before and you don't listen to me again, I want you to listen to me now. I'm humbly submitting that this should be something that we all take of serious and grave importance. There was an amazing article written this week by Alec Karakatsanis, who's a civil rights lawyer. He's a co-founder of Equal Justice Under the Law. My issues on incarceration, so I was curious to read Alec's article, about the campaign Russell Simmons and I did a couple years ago at inmassincarceration.net, and basically what Alec writes about, and the title really got my attention. The title was President Obama's Department of Injustice. And in this article, which is in the New York Times, which I really encourage you to read in detail and to share and to talk about, because we can't sweep this under the rug. It's not going to go away just because we stop talking about it. Alec does an amazing job of really outlining exactly why we have thousands of Americans, mostly black and brown people, but thousands of Americans who remain illegally incarcerated in the United States criminal justice system, particularly for federal crimes, mostly for drug crimes. And we know what the war on drugs did to America. We know what it did to black people. We know that many of these drugs somehow miraculously ended up in black neighborhoods along with weapons that we never made or manufactured ourselves. And it led to just untold amounts of devastation, really to the point where last time I talked to Michelle Alexander, the author of The New Jim Crow, she and I both agreed that black America not only deserves reparations for slavery, we also deserve reparations for mass incarceration. Now, are we going to get those reparations anytime soon? I don't know. It doesn't look like it, but that does not mean that you don't demand and fight for what is right, that you don't demand and fight for what is yours, that you don't demand that our country, that this government that has caused so much harm to so many people of color, be held or hold itself or be held accountable for what it did. It doesn't mean they're going to always do the right thing, but that does not mean that you don't ask for the right thing. And so one of the cases that Alec brings up is a case of Ezell Gilbert. Ezell was given 24 years and 4 months in prison for possession of 50 grams of crack cocaine with the intention to distribute. It was one of those mandatory minimums that was put in place under the administration of your good buddy, the first black president, Bill Clinton, who ain't no black president of mine, who's not a friend of mine, and who has admitted since then that he has put too many black people in prison. Right, so even Clinton himself is admitting to this. Now I think he's admitting to it because he wants you to sort of hit the reset button and forgive he and his wife and put Hillary in office so they can allegedly clean up the mess that they made before. But what's unfortunate is that so many of these politicians love to lie. They don't like following through on their commitments. They're worse than the most irresponsible baby daddies when it comes to making all kinds of promises to get what they want and then walking away after it's over with. But Alec brings up the case of Ezell Gilbert, who received almost a quarter century in prison. It was a sentence that was so long that even the judge in his case said, "I don't want to give you this sentence." Now, that's not the only time this has happened. Ezell's not the only person who has been in a courtroom where the judge himself has said, "This sentence is too long. I don't want to give you this much time, but I have to." Yurima Karama, who does Voices from Behind the Wall, a series on this very channel, he said that his judge told him the same thing when he was given over 20 years in prison for possession of a small amount of crack cocaine. So what was confusing to him and confusing to a lot of people who have this thing called common sense, which apparently does not apply to our justice system, Yurima said, "Well, if you're the judge, Why can't you give me the sentence I deserve? Who should I be talking to then? If you're the judge and you can't make the right decision, you can't judge in your own courtroom, what does that mean? And I think all of us have a right to ask that question. One thing I want you to stop and think about before I get into Ezell's cases, I want you to think about the sheer lunacy. I mean, just the sheer ridiculousness of of some of these draconian laws that have been given, of the fact that you had so many judges who gave sentences that even they didn't want to give. Also, of the lunacy of the fact that there are people in prison who are supposed to be out. The law says they're supposed to be out. The only reason they're not letting them out is because it would be inconvenient. And isn't it interesting how justice for black people is always inconvenient? How we are always told to sort of wait our turn and hope for the best and keep hoping and praying and waiting and being patient, when the fact of the matter is that we have so many things that we deserve in this country that were never given to us. I mean, it's so when you see black people rise up, when you see black people get angry, understand that this anger, much of this anger, is clearly justified. It's a matter of something boiling over to the point where people are going to react. It's only natural. It's only common sense. So we have to stop letting the lies of this racist system move us away from common sense. So I'm going to keep talking about Ezell's case and get into this, and I want you to read the article by Alec. But basically, he said that Ezell petitioned the court to get an early release because 10 years, a decade of his life, was added onto his sentence illegally because his one of his charges was misclassified or something like that. And so the first court ruled against him, but then he appealed again, and another court ruled in his favor. Now, what was interesting though was that that the Obama administration, the whole time, this is your black president now. The Obama administration was fighting the entire time with one argument among many that said that the finality of a prison sentence should be more important than the serving of justice itself, which is why they made it illegal for inmates to petition for their cases more than once. Now, let me say that again to you real quick so you can really understand what I'm saying. They're saying that the finality, getting it closed, done, swept under the rug, moved out of the way, that's more important than it serving justice itself. Now, if that sounds as crazy to you as it does to me, then that means we're on the same page. If you don't get it, then I want you to really go home and think about what that's really saying. It's saying that if it's too inconvenient for us to do the right thing and let a man or woman out of prison who should not be there, we're not going to do it because we don't want to do all the paperwork. We don't want all the trouble. We don't want all the confusion. We're dealing with the lives of human beings here. We're talking about people who were taken away from their families. You're talking about men and women who have children. When Yurima Karama and Daryl Pageant's another brother who got over 40 years in prison for possession of 1 gram of crack cocaine. Judge sentenced him to 40 years in prison with 1 gram of crack. Daryl had a newborn baby who was going to be looking for her father. I asked him, I said, Daryl, did the judge even care that you had a father? Did he care that you were human and that your daughter needed her dad? And that her daughter shouldn't lose her dad for the rest of her life because he made one mistake with drugs that you can find on any college campus, by the way. You go to college campuses, you're going to see a whole lot of cocaine, a whole lot of LSD and all kinds of drugs. But they don't raid college campuses. They raid black neighborhoods. This has been confirmed by one DEA agent after another, by CIA agents, by all kinds of people on police forces all across the nation, that black people were the target of the war on drugs. So we know that the war on drugs was not a true war on drugs. It was a war on black people. It was a program of mass extermination. They exterminated entire communities. If you look at what happened with drugs, it was a triple tragedy. You had people getting hooked on these drugs, again, that miraculously appeared in our communities. We didn't make that crack. That crack just happened to pop up in South Central Los Angeles and in other places around the country. We were the ones getting addicted to the drugs. We were the ones being incarcerated for the drugs. We were the ones dying in drug-related violence. And then you add a bonus to the tragedy. The survivors of this violence were traumatized. We have millions of black children with post-traumatic stress disorder because it's not normal to go to middle school and see your friends get their brains blown out with AK-47s. So here's what I want you to really understand, and I need you to really get with me on this. This was a Holocaust. This was not just an oversight. This was not just American justice at work. This was not just an unfortunate incident. This was a 40-year Holocaust and program of mass extermination of black people. That's what it was. Ezell's case is just one of tens of thousands of examples of situations in which black people know that when you walk in the courtroom, when your black butt walks in that courtroom, you know that you're not going to get the same justice that the white boy is going to get who came from the University of North Carolina or wherever. You're not going to get the same justice package. You have a different justice package that was designed just for you. So let's keep talking about Ezell's case. So Ezell's case even brought the ire of Judge James Hill, who was an 87-year-old conservative judge. And he basically wrote something that I want to read to you because I really like what he said. And this is a conservative now. This is not even this is not a liberal. This is not a some crazy person who believes that everybody should be released from prison. This is a person who believes in law and order and all those other things. And here's what Justice Hill wrote. He said that a judicial system that values finality over justice is morally bankrupt. He also wrote that the result of one of the cases was urged by a department of the United States that calls itself, without a trace of irony, the Department of Justice. He concluded in one of his opinions that, and this is all in that article by Alec that I want you to read in the New York Times, he says, the government hints that there are many others in Gilbert's position sitting in prison serving sentences that were illegally imposed. We used to call such systems gulags. Now apparently we call them the United States. So this goes beyond just a few little glitches in an otherwise noble and admirable system. In fact, when I hear people say I believe in this justice system, I'm not really sure what justice system they're talking about. What I really see is a form of torture. This is torture. Beyond the mass extermination, either you are exterminated or you are tortured. There are many people who go to prison that are raped many times. We claim that sexual assault is a bad thing, that rape is rape, and all these other political catchphrases we get, but nobody says that when you talk about all the tens of thousands of innocent people who go to prison who are raped repeatedly. Nobody cares about that because you've been labeled a bad person. This is where guards are beating people. You talk about police brutality and what happens in the street. Well, the thing is, the big secret, the big part of police brutality, most of the brutality that occurs in the system actually occurs once you're behind bars. Sandra Bland, for example, she died behind bars, and people know her story because she died. If Sandra Bland had lived, that would have been an even greater tragedy because she would have been in a justice system that would have exposed her to unbelievable amounts of abuse, and there would be no cameras around to report what was happening here. This is happening to people that you love, people that I love. This is happening to our community. This is something that we should not tolerate this. And I don't care how much you love your president. And this is not attacking him. This is not going after him. This is not trying to politically undermine him. I don't care what else he does in office. God bless him. I wish him the very best. But on this issue, you're messing with my people. You're messing with my family. You're messing with the people I love. And at that point, you have the power to pick up your ink pen and solve the problem. You have power of clemency, President Obama. You can't put this off on Congress. You can't put this off on those racist people who won't let you do what you want to do. This is something you're choosing not to do for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. But at the end of the day, I need everybody, please do this for me. A couple of things. One, I want you to go read this article by Alec. Alec let me make sure I pronounce it correctly. Karakatsanis. I want you to read his article in the New York Times. It's called "The Department of President Obama's Department of Injustice." I want you to share this article with everybody you know, and I also want you to go sign a petition. We have a petition set up on change.org, and to give you the title of the petition, we just titled it "President Obama, Please Put an End to Illegal Mass Incarceration." Sign the petition, share it around. If you can't remember that URL or that title I just gave you, then we also have the URL that redirects. It is endprisontorture.com. That's endprisontorture.com. This is very, very serious. This affects the future of our community. This affects our children. This affects those we love. And when it comes to standing up for the people you love, you don't back down from nobody. And you don't let anybody come in here and destroy your community and kill off your loved ones and you not do nothing about it. We can't live that way. That's not acceptable. That's all I want to say. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please take care. God bless. I'm gone. Peace.